Okay, what's up, guys? This is gonna be for Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. Algebra 1, you guys are just now learning this, so I may post another video or something else to help you out. Algebra 2, this is a review. You guys learned this earlier in the year, just something we need to go over. So we're going to talk about exponent rules. Okay, so we should all know what an exponent is. All right, it's if I got some expression, variable, number, doesn't matter what it is. And then you got this guy right here, that's the exponent. Okay, so if I have like 3 squared, that means I'm doing 3 times 3, right? It means I have 2 3s technically. If I got x to the, okay, if I have x to the 4th, like it shows right there, that means I actually have, 4 x's. Okay, so that's what an exponent is, how it works. It's always positioned to the top right, okay, of the expression, and obviously smaller than what a normal number would be. Not the one I drew, it kind of looks like x4, but that should be x to the 4th. Okay, so let's go over the exponent rules here. The first exponent rule that we have is if you have an exponent inside the parenthesis and an exponent on the outside of the parenthesis. What this allows us to do, okay, this is called the power of a power rule, is we are going to take the exponent from the outside and multiply it to the exponent that's on the inside. So that's how I get from this one, this first step, to this answer. Okay, I multiplied those exponents together. Now here it's just 2 letters, okay, because that shows the rule. So let's actually do it here. I have x to the 4th inside of parentheses, and then I have another exponent on the outside. So I'm going to take this 3 on the outside and multiply it by the exponent that's on the inside. 4 times 3 gets me x to the 12th. Okay, and that's our first rule. Now, the next one is very similar. Okay, it's the power of a product, is what it's called. But what it tells us is that it doesn't matter how many things are on the inside of the parentheses. In this case, I have an x and a y in there. I can continue with this same idea that I can take the exponent from the outside and multiply it to the exponents on the inside like that. So I do m times b, which is what I got right here. And then I have n times b, which is what I got right here. Okay. Again, those are just letters, variables to make a general idea of this, but let's do some actual numbers to kind of understand it. This time I'm going to take this 3 that's on the outside and multiply it to both the exponents on the inside. So I get x being to the 6th power, because 2 times 3 is 6, and y to the 9th power, because 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so that is what we're going to do there. We're going to multiply it in. There can be multiple variables on the inside. Okay, you can still follow the rule. So same thing on the next one. I'm going to distribute, kind of like distributing, I guess. I don't know if I should use that word, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to distribute this 4 to all of the exponents. Now this one's a little bit different because right now on this 2, the exponent is technically a 1. You just don't see it. On this x, the exponent is technically a 1. You just don't see it. Okay? Everything's to the first power, unless stated otherwise. All right? So we're going to put the little ones there on this time, just so you can kind of see it. So when I do this, I get 2 to the 1 times 4. Well, that's 4. So I get 2 to the 4th power. I have x to the 1 times 4, which gets me x to the 4th. And then I get y to the 3 times 4, which is y to the 12th. Now we're not going to leave it like this. Down here, I'm going to show you something called treat numbers normal. Go ahead and simplify 2 to the 4th. Okay, we know what 2 to the 4th is. as soon as this catches back up here. Technology, I tell you what. There we go. So 2 to the 4th, okay, you can put in your calculator, or technically you can just do it by hand. It's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So you get 16 x to the 4th, y to the 12th. Okay, so those are our first two. This is our first rule / second rule, is if you have an exponent outside of parentheses, you can multiply it inside the parentheses to the other exponents. Now, if we had more class time, which we don't, we would also be doing this around the time that I would teach you about things called monomials and binomials and trinomials and things like that. So the best way I can explain this to you right now is if there is a plus or minus sign, okay, inside of a parenthesis, you cannot just distribute this. Okay? My Algebra 2 kids know that. Okay? It's something I hit on a lot. If you have, this is called a binomial inside of this parenthesis because there's a plus or a minus sign, so that means there's two terms. You cannot distribute the exponent. On all the problems I've done over here, it's just been a bunch of variables or numbers, but no plus or minus signs. So it's all just been one term. Okay? Once there's addition or subtraction, that becomes more than one term. So just for you Algebra 1 kids, try to remember that you cannot distribute an exponent into a binomial or a polynomial or anything that has addition and subtraction in it. And hopefully in later videos I can kind of show you what I mean there. Algebra 2 kids, you should know this. If you had x plus 4 and it was squared, you're going to FOIL it, which I'm going to cover here at the end of this for you Algebra 2 kids. So we'll get to that here in a minute. Okay, anywho, let's go to the next rule. We don't have a ton of time on these videos. The next one is whenever I'm multiplying variables together, okay, when I multiply an x times an x, I'm going to add their powers. And I always use x's. It can be y's, it can be z's, it can be z's, it can be e's. It doesn't matter. Okay, but if I have an exponent and if I have a variable and I multiply it by another variable, I'm going to add their exponents. So that's where I got this m plus n right here. It's because I added the other two exponents. So let's do one real quick. This first one is x to the 4th times x to the 2nd. That means x to the 4 plus 2, which means I actually have x to the 6th power. Now, you don't have to show this, okay? Don't show, okay? I'm just showing you here so you can see that I added those two numbers together. You can just look at the problem and see 4 plus 2 is 6. Don't accidentally multiply them. I understand we are multiplying right here. Okay, we are multiplying these two x's together, but when you multiply, you add exponents. Okay, and then over here I have a little thing. It's called treat numbers normal. So if it's just a number, like on the second example, I have this 2 and this -4, and I have this multiplication in the middle. Well, 2 times -4 is -8. Don't do anything different there. Now, when I multiply this x squared times this x cubed, I am now going to add their powers. So 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, so treat numbers normal. If you're multiplying, multiply numbers. But if we're talking about the exponents, then you need to add them. Add exponents when you multiply. Now, obviously, if you add them when you multiply, you're probably going to subtract them when you divide. So that's where this one comes from. If I have x to the m over x to the n, when I reduce it, it's x to the m minus n. So I'm going to subtract those powers. Now, do make sure they got to be the same variable for you to do this, right? Like if I had an x to the 10th over a y to the 4th, I can't do anything with that. Okay, those aren't even the same variable. So I can't subtract their powers. So this does not, that means does not equal if this catches up. I mean, that doesn't equal, you can't do anything yet. I mean, you cannot subtract those powers, so don't even try. They got to be the same variable. So let's do a few examples here. We got x to the 7th over x to the 4th. Again, if I'm dividing, I'm actually subtracting powers. So 7 minus 4, I get x to the 3rd. And that problem's done. Pretty simple. Obviously, it's the first problem. It should be really simple. And it can continue with the more variables you add and the more numbers you add. Now, again, up here I said treat numbers normal. So on this second example, I need to make sure I'm doing that. This is a 6 over a 12 in the front. That's a 1/2. Treat numbers normal. Don't try to subtract them. If they're just chill numbers, normal numbers, not exponents, you're just going to treat them normal. So I'm going to divide them. Now I'm going to subtract my x's. 5 minus 3 is x squared. This y technically has a power of 1, even though it doesn't say it. So 3 minus 1 is y squared. Now this is a good way of writing this. But we need to get in the habit of knowing that if there's a fraction like this, a 1/2, and then you have this x squared and this y squared, they're all getting multiplied together, you can put the x squared and the y squared up top and just put the 2 in the bottom. Okay? Kind of like if you multiplied a whole number times a fraction, you would do 2 times the top, so you'd have 2 over 5. Okay? So we're going to do that here as well with variables and stuff like that. We have a 1/2. There's a 2 in the denominator or 1 in the numerator. These two guys are currently not part of any fraction, so I'm allowed to put them in the top of this fraction when we multiply them together. So these answers are, either one would work for me. Okay, both the same thing. Okay, just depends, I guess. Not really sure which one would be more simplified. Doesn't really matter right now. Leave it like this. Just wanted you to see this. Okay, the next one. We have kind of putting it all together. Okay, I can't start subtracting these exponents and doing this division because I got to take care of this 3 right here. So remember, this 2 has a power of 1. So on the top, I have 2 cubed, x to the 9th, and y to the 6th, because when I take an exponent outside of parentheses and bring it on the inside, I'm going to multiply those exponents. The bottom is not changed right now. So we got to fix that first, just like PEMDAS. Do your outermost exponent. I mean, you got to get rid of exponents before you can simplify. So I had to get that exponent inside of the parentheses. So now I just have no parentheses, right? Got to get rid of parentheses. Now I just have a a normal division problem. I am going to do one quick thing. 2 cubed is 8. And now I can simplify this. Treat numbers normal. 8 over 12 is the same as 2 over 3. X to the 9th over x squared. Again, when you divide, you subtract. So I get x to the 7th. Y to the 6th over y to the 3rd, I get y to the 3rd. So again, I'm going to subtract there because I'm dividing. And that's going to be my final answer. So again, to wrap it up real quick. Whenever you have an exponent outside of parentheses, you multiply the exponents. When you're multiplying two variables together, you add the exponents. So 5 plus 2 is 7. And then whenever you have division, you are going to subtract the exponents. So 10 minus 4 is 6. Okay? Okay, so Algebra 1 kids, you guys have any questions, to shoot me a message on Remind. I'll answer back as soon as I can. Algebra 2 kids, if you have questions, email me, whatever. You guys can look up other videos and other stuff to help because it should all be very similar to what I've taught you today. Again, make sure your stuff's turned in by Friday. Ask me any questions. Hope you guys are doing well. I miss you. Have a good week.